I didn't have the energy to do it. So that's crazy. And with most things in life, the more energy you put in, the more you get out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the energy, it's a downward spiral, right? Because if you don't have the energy to put in, then you can't get more energy out, and so it just spirals downward. Less leads to less, and more leads to more.
Mm-hmm.
It's it, it's always the same. The more you do, the more you can do. It's like the more you know, the the more you study, the more you know. The more you know, the faster you learn, and it just continues. Positive things lead to more positive things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's interesting to me how the small habits on a daily basis build up the the bigger picture. And if you can't do the small things, you will never be able to do the bigger things. It just won't happen. Yeah. If you can't, you take a really basic example. If you can't make a cup of tea, you're not going to be able to cook a meal, right? It's those little things. So that's why the little things are all very important. And mostly there is another side to it, which is if you've got a big plan about what you want to do, you can work out a lot of the details later. So there's
Yeah.
there's there's another way to look at it. If you want to say move to a different city or a different country, it's like, oh, where are you going to live? It's like, well, I'll organize that when I get there.
Yeah.
Right? Right. So the balance of understanding when you need to focus on getting the small things right compared to when the small things,
Because,
yeah, the small things are less important than the whole bigger picture, right?
mm,
um, so there's there's a there are times when you need to eat only a little, and there are times when you maybe need to eat a lot more. It just depends on what's happening in the world around about you. Yeah. So
mhm.
with hindsight, the ability to look backwards in time, everything is so clear. Everything is so clear because it was,
What is everything? What
well,
everything?
um, let's say a question of health, right? Because I felt
Mm-hmm.
I felt my energy levels go down for about a month. I felt it sliding, and I felt I've got less energy than normal, and I just it was obvious that there was going to be some kind of negative result at the end of that. So at which point, when the thing to do at that point in time is to break the cycle, to do something completely different from what you would normally do, so that you stop the spiral continuing downwards, which was sort of my mistake, which is I didn't try to break the I didn't try to break the cycle. I mean, optimism is really, really important. It's important to be positive, but when if your house is on fire and you're thinking somebody's going to come and throw water on everything and save you, it's like, well, no, you better get out of the house, right? So,
And
uh,
do it by yes.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people waiting for Superman or Supergirl or whatever to come and save them, and it's not going to happen. There was that
Mm.
song. There was a song, "Waiting for Superman." Was it Chris Daughtry or something? It was a really good song. I like that song. Anyway, um, uh, so yeah, that was some guy who won some American Idol competition, and he actually turned out to be talented. So there we go, and produced some good music, rather than the average rubbish that gets turned out by television talent competitions. So now I have to refocus and reorganize everything, which is always it's a necessary process, I think,
Mhm.
doing things like that. But I always say health is wealth, so there you go. Um, it, I think it's a lot about the mind
Sorry.
as much as it is about the body. It's a lot about um, it's a lot about mental state and um, for me, I'm a person who needs to do something all the time, and a sign that I'm not well is when I'm not doing anything. Um, well, it's interesting because we're all different, right? So some
Mhm.
people some people like more, some people like less. It's just the way it's just the way that we are. Um, and maybe maybe there's a little bit of a negative side to being sort of always busy in the sense that you miss stuff maybe from time to time. Like I said, it's different for different people. I think that for me, whatever you do, you have to be all in to what you do.
Mhm.
If you only do something like with 25% or 50% or whatever, it never really has a great negative or never a great positive result. It's mostly negative. Um, if you're doing some fitness activity or and you always feel it. If you don't do as much as you know that you could do, there's usually
Mhm.
always a voice in the back of people's head that's telling them, oh, you didn't quite do do that there, and that's important to keep in check because we all know ourselves what we do right and what we do wrong. It's less visible to other people, but I think that we all have that little voice in the back of our head, which is telling us, this is right and this is okay, and I think automatically most, if not everybody, knows what is right and what is wrong.
Mhm.
They know, but we have a really bad habit as human beings of justifying what is wrong by telling ourselves whatever we want. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
it's it's okay to have another beer after having 6 or 7 beers previously and thinking, well, I should probably stop right now. There's just an example from my student days, right? Um, so yeah, or surrounding yourself with people um, who live by a principle of the lowest common denominator, which
Lowest
means
common
yeah,
denominator.
the lowest common denominator, which is there's this principle that whatever group of people you're with, the group will set its standards to the standards of the lowest person, of the lowest ethical or moral concept within the group, right?
Mhm.
Um, for example, and this works. This is best described with alcohol for some reason. So if you've got somebody who likes to go out and drink 2 beers, somebody who likes to go out and drink 4 beers, somebody who likes to go out and drink 6 beers, somebody who likes to go out and drink 8 beers, and they all go out together.
Mhm.
The default scenario is that everybody drinks more than usual because the lowest common denominator is somebody who drinks 8 beers.
Uh-huh.
And that person is going to encourage the other people to adopt their bad behaviors and bad habits.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, in general, it depends on, what kind of mentality the people are, and of course, if you've got the right kind of mentality, you get out of that group. But just to use a surfing example, you want friends who surf who wax their surfboards and keep everything in good condition. You don't want, people who just throw the surfboard in the garage and never take care of it, right? And
Yeah.
and and so because we all kind of want life to be a little bit easier in general for us. We're always sort of seeking that easier road, which tends to be defaulting to the uh, to say, oh, because they do it, I can do it,
Mm-hmm.
or
Absolutely.
because it's normal for them, I don't have to worry about it. Um, because everyone else drinks instant coffee, I'll drink instant coffee rather than drinking real coffee. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we set our habits based upon whatever is considered normal within the groups that we socialize. But normal is so different from place to place that it can just as easily be bad as good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.